I thought it would be just one night. One act of kindness. But when he showed up at my door, wet from the rain, eyes full of something I couldn't ignore, I let him stay. I didn't know that night would change everything. I didn't know I'd fall, and fall hard. Please don't forget to subscribe and comment. And one request, please always keep a smile on your face. I wasn't expecting anyone that night. I had just gotten home from a long day at the gallery, my heels clicking against the marble floor of my apartment as I slipped them off, tossing my keys into the bowl by the door. My phone buzzed again, but I ignored it. I needed silence. A glass of red wine. Maybe soft jazz. Anything but people. And then there was a knock on my door. It was past 10. My hand hesitated over the lock as I peeked through the peephole. A man stood there, tall, drenched from the sudden New York rainstorm, his soaked shirt clinging to his body. At first, I didn't recognize him. But when he looked up, his eyes caught mine through the glass. It was Ryan Blake. I hadn't seen him since college. He had been my best friend's older brother. The quiet type, kind, brooding, the kind of guy girls watched from across the room but didn't dare approach. And now, there he was on my doorstep, shivering, looking as if he'd walked straight out of a dream I hadn't dared have in years. "Avery," he said when I opened the door. "Ryan? What are you? What happened?" He gave me a sheepish look, water dripping from his jawline. "Long story. Can I come in? Just for a bit?" Of course, I let him in. I wasn't made of stone. I handed him a towel and led him to the couch while I poured wine. My heart was racing, not just from the shock of seeing him again but because of how good he looked. That 5 o'clock shadow, those eyes that hadn't changed, he was even more attractive than I remembered. "You still live around here?" I asked, handing him the glass. He shook his head, drying his hair with the towel. "No. I just got in from Chicago. My hotel canceled last minute. Long story short, I've been walking in the rain for half an hour." "Why didn't you call?" "I didn't think you'd answer." I didn't know what to say to that. We had history, not romantic, but complicated. I used to dream about him when we were younger. I had always wondered what would have happened if he ever looked at me the way I looked at him. That night, maybe he finally did. He changed into one of my oversized sweatshirts while I tossed his wet clothes into the dryer. The moment he stepped back into the living room, I paused. The sweatshirt barely covered his hips, revealing strong thighs and just a glimpse of something I shouldn't have noticed. "Sorry," he said, smirking when he saw my expression. Only thing dry I had. "I don't mind," I whispered, heat creeping up my neck. We talked for hours, about everything and nothing. His job, my art, the chaos of life. I hadn't laughed like that in months. And the way he looked at me, there was a pull between us. Subtle, electric. Sometime past midnight, the wine made me bolder. Or maybe it was the way he kept brushing his knee against mine, his fingers lingering a little too long when he passed me the glass. "You know," I said quietly, "I used to have the biggest crush on you." He looked at me for a long second. "I know." I laughed, but my heart raced. "You knew." "I wasn't blind, Avery. I just didn't know what to do with it back then. And now." He leaned in, slow. The kind of slow that gives you time to say no, but makes it hard to do so. "Now," he murmured, his fingers brushing a strand of hair from my cheek, "I'm not going anywhere tonight." His kiss was soft, tentative at first, like he was testing a boundary he didn't want to break. I leaned into it, my body responding before my brain could catch up. His hands slid over my waist, pulling me closer, the sweatshirt rising up my thighs. I gasped when his lips moved to my neck, and suddenly nothing else existed but him. We stumbled toward the bedroom, laughing and tangled in each other. His skin was warm against mine, his hands exploring every inch like he was learning me. Every kiss was fire, every touch a promise. I had let him stay for one night. But that night became unforgettable. The way he whispered my name as if it meant something. The way he made me feel, not just desired, but seen. Cherished. When I woke up the next morning, sunlight streamed through the window, and he was still there, one arm wrapped around my waist, his breath steady against the back of my neck. I didn't want to move. I didn't want to ruin the fragile, perfect stillness of the morning. "You awake?" he murmured. Last night." "Yeah." He turned me gently to face him. I meant every moment of it. I smiled, brushing my fingers against his jaw. "Me too." We spent the morning wrapped in each other, lazy kisses and slow touches, like we were both afraid time would steal it all away. But it wasn't just lust. There was something deeper growing. I could feel it in the way he looked at me when I made coffee. In the way he didn't rush to leave. Days passed. Then a week. He didn't go back to Chicago right away. He stayed. And somehow, we slipped into this rhythm that felt natural, right? Breakfasts together, evenings with wine and music, long conversations about things we'd never told anyone else. One evening, I found him sketching something on my balcony. He wasn't an artist, not in the professional sense, but the drawing was of me, soft lines and expressive eyes. I stood behind him in silence, tears in my eyes. "You see me like that?" I whispered. He turned. "That's how I've always seen you. I just never knew how to say it." I kissed him then, harder, deeper than I had before. Because it wasn't just about desire anymore. It was about falling. Truly falling. We spent that night wrapped around each other like we couldn't get close enough. Every time his lips touched my skin, I felt my heart open just a little more. He wasn't just in my bed. He was getting into my soul. But not everything is a fairy tale. A week later, he got a call. Chicago was pulling him back. Work. Life. Responsibilities. "Come with me," he said, his fingers tangled with mine. I looked around my apartment, the place I had called home for years. The gallery. My art. And then I looked at him. "Okay," I whispered. Because sometimes, love doesn't knock twice. I had let him stay for one night. But one night became forever. And I had no regrets.